Brad, tell them. So we obviously work with Mike Vick, and this is a relationship business, and you just talked about T.I., and then,
Okay, so I'll tell the story. So how I met...
Tell the story, and like where we are, we got some stuff coming with Mike, which is cool.
Okay, so I'll tell you. So, yes, I don't just work with rappers, but for purposes of this story, I'm telling you guys a story. But so Mike Vick, I'm a huge sports fan, and shout out to the Ravens. But
shout out to the Ravens.
Lamar.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Mike Vick gets out of prison. I remember I'm on my treadmill, which I run in the morning, and I see Michael Vick on a Monday, got out of Leavenworth in Michigan, and the helicopters are following his car. Like, Michael Vick was released this morning. He didn't announce when he was going to be released, but he's like, they're following the car and all the way back to Virginia, and I was like, wow, that's cool. Mike's out. I wonder what's going to happen. And 2 days later, Wednesday, I get a call, and it's Michael Vick, and you know the story, Claire. So Vic calls, and I'm like, hello? He's like, this is Brian? I'm like, yeah, it's Mike Vick. I'm like, come on, man, who the fuck is this? Thought it was one of my brothers putting me on. He goes, no, man, it's Mike Vick. I'm like, because I got your number from T.I. Again, back to being a relationship business, and you deliver for somebody, and then somebody else, calls you. And I said, why are you calling me? He's like, well, I watched your show when I was in prison that you had created for Tip, and I want to do a show like that. And I've a lot of people were flying to Mike to visit him. A lot of big reality producers were flying to court him to tell his story. I wasn't one of those people. I don't really get involved in shows or people unless I don't like the sensationalizing of things. I just wanted to, I like to work with good people and stories that I like. And Mike said, I want to tell my story in a smart way. I want to, I don't want to ask for forgiveness for the dogfighting stuff. I just want to show people my road and show them my road and my story and tell them why I did what I did. And not even asking for forgiveness, just showing the world that. And will you come meet with me? And so he asked me to come meet with him. I said, where do you, yeah, sure, I'm open to meeting with you. And I said, let's find a place. He goes, well, I can't leave. I'm under house arrest in Hampton, Virginia. So you got to come to me. And I said, I understand and understood. And I'll never forget. It was a Memorial Day weekend, I think, either 4th of July weekend or Memorial Day weekend. I think Memorial Day weekend. And it's easy to chat because to see when he got out. But so I got on a flight on Friday. I flew to DC. Again, I'm from Baltimore. I went to see my parents and my grandmother for a night. And then I drove to Hampton, Virginia, about 5-6 hours down the road. And this is right before Instagram. So there was no social media at the time. So all the big news trucks are outside. You remember the trucks? You guys don't remember the trucks.
Yeah, I remember the trucks.
Yeah. We remember the trucks, and all down the street. It was crazy how much media attention he was getting. And Mikey told me to go on the side door and knock 3 times. And so I went and I knocked, and Vic answers. I'll never forget it. He had shorts, a t-shirt. His hair was very long, and he had an ankle bracelet from his foot to his knee. Being monitored by the government. And I was like, it's great to meet you. And I ended up going in and spending about 4 hours with Mike, 4 to 5 hours. And at the time, Kiafa was his fiance. Now they've been married a long time. I think they're 10 years. Yeah. And which is phenomenal. And they had a couple daughters at the time that were crawling all over Mike. And there was so much love in that room that I saw because I was sitting there, and going back to what we talked about and who you want to work with. And I really saw a guy who, look, far from perfect, made some horrible mistakes and horrible choices. You can't dispute that, and he doesn't dispute it. But went to jail for 18 or 19 months, had to pay several tens of millions of dollars in restitution, went bankrupt. I mean, so he paid a price. Unlike a lot of people who do commit crimes that don't really pay a price. Certainly to not that extent. But I really liked him though, and I said, he goes, I just want to tell my story. I said, let me see if I can help you, because I'd like to help you. So I flew back to LA. I tried to set up meetings with all the networks, and there were no streamers at the time, really. So I called people that ran these networks, and told them what I just told you guys. And everybody said, are you crazy? Nobody wanted to touch Mike, touch the story, touch anything about him. But there was one woman at BET named Laretha Jones, who's now running Queen Latifah's company. And she knew a side of Mike. She knew that she just knew a lot about Mike that people didn't know. For example, you guys may not remember the Virginia Tech massacres. You probably do. And it was 2003 when the guy shot from the tower, Virginia Tech Tower, and I think he killed 13 students. And it was just so tragic. And Mike, who had gone to Virginia Tech, obviously, before he was drafted #1, a couple of years before that, he paid for all the funerals, and he did it very quietly and didn't announce that to people.
Wow.
She knew that. Mike's not a guy he's quiet. He's not a guy that seeks a lot of attention. But also on the other side, didn't defend himself when or really say a lot about when he was on the other side of it. But she said, she ran BET. She goes, I will make that show. I will make it. Let me order 10 episodes and let's go. And so I partnered up with a guy named James Dubose, who's, still great, a great friend and around. And we ended up setting up a show called the Michael Vick Project on BET. And so which
was great, by the way. I watched every episode.
Oh, thanks. Well, we had a good time doing it. And luckily for Mike, in the middle of shooting, the Eagles and Andy Reid had recruited him. Yeah. And then we shot most of the show in Philadelphia because he was then back on the Eagles and he was going to back up. And then
McNabb.
No, it wasn't McNabb. Who was he backing up who got injured? I can't remember.
Was it Kevin Cobb?
Yeah.
I think it was McNabb and Cobb. I think they both. No, McNabb left. It was Kevin Cobb. Yeah. It was Kevin Cobb.
Right.
He got knocked out.
Yeah. And then Mike replaced him and then comeback player of the year. And, I didn't participate in Mike's football deals. So I don't want to be confused saying that. But I became like his entertainment partner, I guess, a trusted person. And now, that was in 2009?
So here we are.
And now
15 years later.
So 15 years later, he was a groomsman in my wedding. I was in his wedding. He's one of my best friends, personally, professionally. We had a very good friendship for all these years. But we didn't work together in an official capacity. And about 2 years ago, he said, "Man, Beak, he calls me Beak. Let's meet up. I'm in LA. Will you meet with me? I'm working on for Fox Sports now. I'm doing a lot with them, and I could really, I'd love to sit down with you." I sit down with him and goes, "Listen, I would like you to manage me. Let's make this official. We've been working together anyway. You've been my partner. Can we be partners officially?" I'm like, "Of course, Mike. You want to memorialize it? Sure, let's do it." But really, nothing's really changed. So we decided to work together in that official capacity. Justin and I have been working together. I said, "I want you to meet, the new Bob Sugar." And, and he met Justin.
That's a good one.
And
nice Bob Sugar.
It's been a lot of fun, though. I mean, Mike, everything happens for a reason. Mike is super relevant to this NIL generation. I'm super proud. We have a show called The Evolution of the Black Quarterback that's coming out on Amazon in the fall. And it's been a lot of fun because we have the new youthful version of all these kids who look up to Mike and in a weird way aspire for Brian to be able to do what he's done for these other people, right? Like once they hit that critical mass. And Mike's enjoying it because he still loves football. So he loves being around the client roster. He knows Julian Lewis. He knows Malachi. He knows about DJ. He just watches these guys because at the end of the day, he was an insanely talented quarterback. So.
Oh, no. I mean, I believe that Michael Vick is the most talented football player to ever lace him up.
Wow.
In my opinion.
Coming from you.
And also I'm biased, but I think he is. And it's also crazy. I saw a stat last NFL season. I think half of the opening day starters were black quarterbacks, which is crazy, and most of those guys all look up to Vic, I mean, everybody played with him on Madden. I know NCAA's out now. You know what I'm saying? Like Vic really was at the forefront of what is now just normal. I mean, it's normal just to have a black quarterback now. When Mike was playing, it was like a thing, but now it's normal. Yeah. He opened, I mean, other people like Doug Williams and James Harris opened those doors first. I'm a historian, okay, but Mike took it to the next level. He transcended the game.
We were at the quarterback Hall of Fame induction, and those guys came, and McNabb and all of them, like even Warren Moon and Donovan gave him the award. And, like you said, some existed before him, but they really feel like that Mike broke it wide open for the wrong quarterback. But
I want to say something about you, Justin, because, working with Justin has, people like Len and myself, we come up and we have really good relationships and we have good businesses and people that trust us and all the stuff we've touched on already. And then, you meet when I met you through, I guess it was through when you're working with Gary Vee.
It was
and Jay.
It was Alex Scheinman to Jacob Nussbaum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I got a call. This is 5 years ago. I think the Super Bowl was in Miami.
It was in Atlanta. It was right before it was Atlanta.
That's right.
That was a good week.
Yeah, and you called me up and somebody called and said they want T.I. to play at a party, some party down for the Super Bowl, and I'm like, I'd gotten so. T.I. was very hot at the time, and I'm like, I don't think so. They said, well, Gary Vee's involved. I'm like, oh, and this is when I learned about Gary Vee on social media. I really liked him. Gary draws you in.
Yeah,
still does. And I'm like, oh, Gary Vee's guy, sure. And I took the call just because his name was associated with it. And then I met Justin, and we became fast friends, and
partners.
And partners. And I'll say something about you. You've added so many so many dimensions to these businesses of the artists or athletes that I've introduced you to, because we think we know, not that we know everything, but we think that we got them under control and we're handling the businesses we should handle. And then along comes someone like you and you bring these opportunities that I never saw coming and relationships I never had and I don't have and don't profess to have and give you full credit for. And you've really, accentuated, and really added a lot of value to their lives. So, there's so much value in working with you.
Appreciate that.
And it makes me look good. I don't need to be the guy that gets praised for everything. I mean, if I introduce, Quavo or Tyga to Justin Giangrande and he ends up finding them an opportunity that I couldn't have, which you have for both those people. Makes me look good and they make more money. And
we put an Amazon amp deal together for Yachty and Yachty's like, what's amp? I'm like, I don't know, but it's great. It's Amazon only. He's like, I'm in. But it's been great, honestly. Like I said, both of you guys have been mentors, partners. It's a lot of fun to be at this moment where we are with NIL. Len, I'd love you to talk just about your piece of, the career piece of just impacting women, your growth, your understanding of the space of just women's sports, but then also what you're also working on now as well in that space.
Yeah, well, the NIL space, really opened up. And you were definitely one of the pioneers, Justin. You saw it coming. You immersed yourself in it in a huge way. I just sort of stumbled into it because Shaq goes, hey, I got some kids. And then this NIL stuff helped my son Sharif and my son Shakir.
Yeah.
And, and I said, okay, so we did some NIL stuff with Sharif, and he was NIL Athlete of the Year because he had the O'Neal name and we could really use that to his benefit and advantage. And through that, you sort of learned what was going on in the space. And I started writing for Forbes about what was going on in NIL. And, one of the things, as Justin said, I've always been passionate about is women's sports. So I'm married to a 3-time Olympian medalist, Holly McPeak, who plays beach volleyball or did play beach volleyball for quite some time. And I had actually founded the AVP Pro Beach Volleyball Tour and put men and women together under one umbrella and gave women equal prize money. And you'll probably remember Misty May, Carrie Walsh. They were my women that came out of my tour, and they won 3 straight gold medals at the Olympic Games. And I also represented and helped launch the WNBA through Lisa Leslie. So Lisa Leslie was my client, if you remember that name. She's a legend.
Oh, yeah.
And
the greatest.
she is, arguably the greatest ever. And she was amazing and, a fantastic athlete. And I really enjoyed women's sports. And David Stern, who was kind of my mentor, always said, we should really work towards more gender equality in sports. And he really backed the WNBA, even when it was losing a lot of money.
He did.
So I was really passionate about it. I had the volleyball, I had the background with Lisa Leslie, but I saw that women's sports was really operating under a lot of headwinds because most people didn't want to invest in it. For example, when I represented Lisa, I went to Nike many years ago. I said, hey, she's wearing Nike. You got to give her a shoe deal. You got to give her a signature shoe. And they laughed at me. Like, women don't care about what other women are wearing. Playing basketball, they look at Michael Jordan and they watch what he's wearing and they buy those shoes. He said, we'll give you a little bit of money, but it's only for charity. Women's sports was charity back then because it wasn't justified economically. It was only justified as a cause. So as we started to see, culture change and women's sports valued slightly more, you started to see a shift in the sort of like the way that people looked at it, and you felt momentum starting to build. A lot of women think it's far more advanced than it really is because still, for the most part, women's sports is niche, with the exception of like World Cup or Olympics or Caitlin Clark, who's like,
fire.
a whole like,
what an amazing
phenomenon in her own right. But what I'm really focused on now is how can you take women's sports in a way that's going to make it appeal to a mass audience, not just a niche audience? Like, what are opportunities that you can identify where that could happen? But I think here's the thing that I think is really interesting. And this is to probably you would know more about this, but this whole world of NIL is new. And there's a curiosity.
Yes.
Like, what the heck is going on now here?
Right.
Yep.
So that curiosity could
True.
lead to the creation of content because nobody knows how a 16, 17-year-old kid is dealing with opportunities for
True.
the first
Yep.
time. And how are they going to handle them? And by the way, when I was representing Shaq and started creating like Shaq in music and Shaq in movies, and he was already graduating from college. And now you can take that back and roll back the clock 4 or 5 years or 3 years at least and see how a person of that age and the family would deal with the situation. Because I think that's interesting.
Super interesting. We're working on some concepts in
Yeah, I'm
that.
sure you
but
are.
We are.
I
Sure
think,
you-
I think
we
the,
got some
the
stuff.
challenge with that, with someone who's in high school, is time. If they're going to go shoot a movie in Vancouver for 4 weeks or 3, it's the schedule, the time. But I also think it's, very respectfully, these athletes, I don't think, movie producers are necessarily looking for, a high school female
Some
athlete.
16-year-old.
Yeah, I mean, if he's right for the role, if acting
Yeah.
is something he wants to
Yeah.
do. But I think that, you and I, Justin, were talking about this earlier. We are having a conversation off camera about athletes in general getting movie roles. Big athletes currently. And I think that conversation is more of a, and you did that very early on with Shaq. But Shaq was, I think, an anomaly to that.
Yeah. he
Yeah.
was.
When you think about it, because how many
Blue
athletes?
chips,
Yeah,
Oh,
which
yeah.
I
You know, blue chips we had.
Nick Nolte.
We had every
Penny.
every top college basketball player. Penny Hardaway,
I love
Shaq. We had everybody.
Blue Chips is one of the best movies ever made. I love that movie. I mean,
I put my dad in that movie, by the way.
what? Really?
Yeah. So if you go and look at that movie, my dad was a professor at USC at the time, and Billy Friedkin, the director, his wife was Sherry Lansing, who was running the studio, and so we all sat down together, and he said, we're casting, and there's this professor, and he's, yelling at the kids because they're not paying attention in school. And I said, well, my dad's a professor, and he can play that role. He goes, oh, bring him in. So he interviews my dad. He goes, yeah, so you look at Blue Chips, you see the professor, when he's yelling at Shaq, that's my dad.
Wow.
Have you ever seen Anchorman? Brian put his dad in that too.
Your dad's an Anchorman too?
No, I just made it.
Oh, I was like, holy sh! I wouldn't be surprised.
I mean,
That's funny.
Well, with that said, we can't miss a moment to drop some breaking news right here on Grammys and Heismans. JG, do you want to do the honors? I mean, this is huge.
So, a couple weeks ago, we had Blaze and his father on. Well, today, this wasn't planned, but today, NIL is officially legal for high school athletes and athletes in general in the state of Florida. And so we are announced signing Blaze Ingram, who at 12, I believe, is probably the first client to be signed. And also, we actually already have an endorsement deal in place for him, and we're really excited to sign it. He's, one of the reasons we were interested in him is beside him being a great athlete, but we talk about the importance of social media. Has 2 million followers on all of his platforms at 12. His father and him are unbelievable creators. They were out here for ESPYs.
Yeah.
And I think, our goal is to just always be innovative. And I think, it's getting younger and younger, but I think one of the things that makes him really interesting is that he's really good as a content creator besides actually being physically gifted.
So
That's-
what's the
that's
youngest
important.
athlete you're willing to sign? Is it going to be that Charlie bit my finger guy?
No, I mean, Danny on my team is managing him along with us. And, it's all about the relationship. His dad came out here, was willing to put in the work, invest his own money in his son's
building his
talent,
brand.
building his brand. And I think what we like at the Network Advisor is having talent that when we go into different meetings with brands or companies, that we know very clearly who's the talent that fits for them. And I feel like we, having him be in the state of Florida, being, understanding my roots are there, DJ Lagway's there, we have Brady Smeagol as the Florida State quarterback. We're going to be spending time down there. And at the end of the day, look, a lot of NIL, as you know, does have to initially start with your social media as well.
doubt.
Built his father's understanding of that platform, then, someday leads to getting bigger content opportunities.
Well,
So
congratulations.
Yeah,
That's a
congrats.
big win.
Nice job,
It's a
guys.
big win.
Yeah, big
We're
win
excited.
for you guys. Now.
All you sixth graders, build up your social profile. Don't just DM Justin now. Build it up. Have mom and dad work on that while you're in school. School first.
You said stay in school. Of course, stay in school.
Yeah.
But you need to. No. I mean,
social media.
that's not what I mean. I mean, school's always number one.
Okay.
When I was a
Official
kid.
statement, school's number one.
No, of course, but I mean, you have to. If
Yeah.
being in front of the camera or having aspirations outside of
gotta
music
do
or
it.
sport is something you want to do, you have to be thinking about social media as you're doing that and building your brand. It's it's a huge part of it. We all know that.
No, it's true. I was going to say something I've noticed when I do a deal with like an Instagram influencer who may have literally 8 million followers. And I'll tell brands, I'll help the brand. Like, hey, okay, you like this girl. She's hot. She's got 8 million followers. But you might want to take this football player that plays for the Raiders. Because like I explained to them, this woman with 8 million followers, most people are just liking her look, right? She's in a bikini or whatever. But this football guy who's maybe got 1 million followers, right? He's actually selling jerseys. Like somebody in America is going and buying his jersey.
That's fair.
Right? At Champ Sports. And so I try to tell the brand, you know, the brands are so gung-ho on the number next to, you know, the follower sign. And I'm like, hey, don't forget, even though this guy wears a helmet.
Actual influence.
Like this woman, yes, 8 million followers, but this guy's selling jerseys. I just saw his jersey on Melrose today. So I've been trying to explain to the brands too, there's still a difference. Like there's still like that old school feel with the new school changing of the NIL and how things are rolling out for sure. For sure.
Well, I think it's time, Chuck, for Chuck's bullshit of the week. So what do we got today?
Well, my bullshit of the week is the new NCAA football game is finally back. It's been a long wait. Man, a long wait. 11 years. I feel like I did a jail bid waiting for it to come back. I think they made like crazy millions in the first day. So my bullshit of the week is I want to bring back all the great sports video games of the past. We need college basketball back. We need college baseball back. We need a boxing video game. But, you know, let these people, the men and women, make the money, bring the video games back. And my last bullshit of the week is if you are a star and your kid is a star and you want them to sign with the hottest agency in the business, bring in the TNA. We're looking for quarterbacks, wide receivers, but soon we will be looking for more Rachel Glenns, who, by the way, is on her way to Paris to do her thing in the Olympics.
That's right.
Basketball. But there's no place that you would rather be than right here at TNA. I want to thank you for joining the show, Leonard Armato, Brian Sher. It's been a pleasure. I've been knowing Brian forever, man. This is great. And Leonard, you've opened the doors for young guys like myself who've aspired to be the Jerry Maguires, the Lee Steinbergs, Leonard Armatos. I've done extensive research on what you've done. And Brian, you're my brother, so kudos to you guys. I don't think that you guys have just had this great career for it to end here. There's a whole nother, route that you guys can continue to take and show us how to do it. So God bless you both. Thank you both.
And thank
you for having us.
Yeah, we'll see you guys in the next episodes. Right Chuck and JG signing out. Manny, Luis, we appreciate you guys. Claire, we'll see you guys next week.
Right on.
Right on.
All right.